Southern California. You are on Coast to Coast.
Yeah, hi, gentlemen.
Hi there.
I don't know if you heard Stephen Hawking said that he predicted a new species of human on the planet within the next 1,000 years, which I thought was an interesting prediction out of the blue to me. And also I have in front of me some pictures of gold engravings from the Kimball Cave pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kimball was on Art's show. We got him off the website.
Yes.
You've seen these, I suppose, huh?
I have not. Stephen, you have.
Yep.
Oh, I think that's just amazing, that they are, Egyptian folks. I see it no big deal, getting across the ocean. In the Atlantic, you can drift across, with the sail, you can get even faster. Makes me wonder what sort of ships giants would have, You're talking about oar strokes, and I was thinking it would be quite the thing to see a gigantic ship built by giants. But it reminds me of Planet of the Apes, too. I was just watching that a few different times, and it's on HBO now, so looking at it carefully, and it dawned on me after, the last time I saw it, that this could actually happen, that one species could take over another.
And it happens all the time, doesn't it, Stephen?
Well, when you're talking like Planet of the Apes, let me share this. If you've got a bunch of people then let me just say this again, not normal by our standards, but are set on world domination. It's kind of like the movie Universal Soldier, okay? You can create a bunch of hybrids, and in creating those hybrids, you take away all conscience, you take away, any propensity to show any mercy, and you can make the ultimate killing machine. Imagine something that has the same desires as, basically turn a bunch of giants into great white sharks on the land, and I don't mean literally fish, I mean with the appetite that you could have, and I think it becomes a fascinating topic for the future.
Were there any female giants, Stephen?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, again, when the angels, and understand this, a lot of people say, well, Jesus said in heaven they're neither given or taken in marriage. Well, that's in heaven. God's fury came down on the ones that committed sex sin. It says that they're reserved in Tartarus, and interestingly enough, in Greek mythology, Tartarus is an area below Hades where the primeval deities, the Titans, were basically chained up. And the Titans, you remember the story Clash of the Titans,
Clash, yep.
Well, the interesting thing about the Titans is you have a specific group of fallen angels that committed sex sin. Those ones are locked up until the end times, and then guess what? They get loosed again, according to, biblical prophecy. Then you've got a bunch of fallen angels out there that didn't commit sex sin that are still, if you will, vying for planet Earth. And a lot of people say, well, I don't believe in angels. Well, the point is that you can certainly believe in what you can see. And George, we're talking about some of the bones that just the femur of some of these people are 72 inches to 84 inches long.
That's almost hard to believe, but you're right.
It is hard to believe. And you're talking about people that can rip out trees just by hugging it, And so, for instance, in Texas, this is a fascinating story. In Texas, they had 9 to 12 foot tall, what are called the Karankawas, kind of like Chiricahuas, only Karankawas, and the tribal name, and they were all cannibals. And when you get into the Anasazi of the Desert Southwest, Discovery Magazine carried a fabulous story on what happened to the Anasazi. And what happened to them was the same thing pretty much that happened to Easter Island. Their mysterious disappearance is everybody ate each other out of existence. National Geographic carried the story that, by the way, the Eastern Islanders, or the Rapa Nui, were cannibals, and they used to have a curse. Here's their curse. Your grandmother's flesh lies rotting between my teeth.
Oh, what a great thought
that's a lovely thing. I bet you get invited over for dinner. Hi, you're next. The point is that again the infinite amount of, or maybe massive is a better word, the massive amount of information, the massive amount of skeletal remains, the massive amount of not only oral tradition but written diaries, digests. People running into this stuff in contemporary history, and yet people say, "Well, I don't believe it." Well, to that I just say, live in denial.
East of the Rockies in Kansas, you are on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you.
Okay, I have a comment and I have a question. My comment is, I believe that Father Malachi Martin was silenced, and wrongfully so. And I was the one to ask your guest if he believes in Bigfoot, and if he does he believe that this creature is connected to what he's talking about?
All right, good question.
That is a great question. Yes, I believe in Bigfoot. When you go to understanding Bigfoot and the Sasquatch and all the different names, whether it's a Chinese version or every place in the world seems to have it, yes, I believe that there are, how should I say this, transgenic species. In other words, people have been messing with this stuff, or even say the entities. An interesting thing, with every abduction that I know of, pretty much, and I used to catalog, George, all of them, there's this sexual thing. Everybody's always playing around with either the egg of the woman, the sperm of the man, and these people feel violated and raped.
Right.
All I can tell you is with the almost exponential speed of genetic engineering and cloning and everything I've talked about with the whole soul catcher, I believe that Bigfoot and all those things are real, and even the latest hair sample of the last Sasquatch could not be DNA typed to anything that's currently known.
Wow. Currently, no, they couldn't put it together.
They couldn't put it together. In other words, it didn't match the great apes. It wasn't human. It was something other than that.
First-time caller, welcome to Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi there.
Yes, sir. You are on the air.
Oh, this is a wild night. You guys are creeping me out. I'm watching the Perseid meteor shower from the coast of Mississippi.
Oh, you got to tell me, what do they look like? Is it grand?
Oh, no, the Leonoids last year was grand. This is cool.
Okay.
They're nice. And I've noticed that throughout recorded history and what we've been able to tell of prehistory and legends that come down, events like the Leonoids of last year are noted and passed down from generation, the stories. You were talking about fallen angels and the Himalayas, meaning fallen. Relationships to that, is there any chronological correlation to the legends of giants in conjunction to meteor showers?
All right, any tie in there, Stephen?
Yeah, that's a great question because, yes, very specifically, the bottom line is that falling stars, if you will, and that's what they were called prior to be officially known as asteroids and comets. The point is that the ancients always believed that when they saw meteor storms and they saw the other thing, that, if you will, heavenly beings, those from heaven, were actually coming to earth. Now, it's interesting that the word angel actually means messenger, and it also, and like I said, star, okay? The Hebrews taught and antiquity taught that each one of the stars was a specific abode of an angel. So there was always, in essence, when, comets were a foreboding of evil. And it's interesting because that's why all, and I say A-L-L, of the ancient civilizations were so concerned with what was taking the heaven. They looked at the stuff as omens, and they looked at the different placement of the planets. And what's interesting, George, is like the Dogon tribe, D-O-G-O-N, in Timbuktu. And I used to think, man, is there really a place called Timbuktu? It's in Africa. They actually knew about the dog star in Sirius that you cannot see with the naked eye.
You're absolutely right, and there's much more to come. I'm George Norrie. This is Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. Stephen, I do have to compliment you on the effort and the work that you've put into this book, which is as big as a giant, quite frankly, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I almost think, to tell people how much 480 pages is, you got to put it in pounds, It truly, there is nothing like it, and I will make a promise. I can tell you this, for the people that really want to put the question marks they've had in their minds all these years, I think it will give them exclamation points. I don't mean that to sound corny, but what it does, it answers a lot of questions, and it tells us where it's going. And I think that's what, the focus of tonight's interview, from your perspective, George, are we going to see this stuff again? And yes, we are. And the ramifications are so great, that I think that, except the days be short and there'd be no flesh left alive. That's what Jesus said, and I think it's going to get bad.
Did it take you much time to dig up some of these pictures, these real-life pictures of these fossilized giants? And I mean, that, I think, makes the whole book, because it just illustrates exactly what you're talking about. When you can see it in visual form, it's just strange.
Well, I actually scour, and I mean when I say that, I mean that. I'm scouring the earth for those pictures right now. The pictures that are in that book, half of them came from Europe, and that's why I put out a request, because, you know, this broadcast goes worldwide. And like I said, the last time I was on our show, I got a call from, or not call, forgive me, an email from some guys in Eastern Europe that are fronting an expedition, and they claim to have a cave of these guys that are 12 feet tall. And, you know, I want pictures, and the interview, and I didn't hear the show when the gentleman from Utah called, but, you know, the excitement of that, my guess is, as Reed said earlier, that the boys got to him. For instance, again, understand, by law, anything that's found in the United States that is of a certain age, and, you know, it's pre-1850 or something, is automatically considered a Native American artifact, even though there were no 12-foot-tall Apaches. So, you know, under the guise of it's illegal to own that, they come and take that stuff away. The last person you want to tell when you find that stuff is the authorities. You know, please give me a call so we can at least get it photographed and stuff before they come and take it away.
Let's go wild card caller in Florida. Welcome to Coast to Coast. Good morning.
Hey, George, you're slowly taking over Art's body, I think.
Nah, not at all. When he resurrects, he'll be here in grand style.
I heard that. This is Gary calling from Tampa, listening on 970 WFLA. You know, Steve, my father's passed away now, but for some years when I was a little guy, he used to tell me stories about something about when the tall men walked, and that there was these carvings of these tall people on stones all around the world. But that's another story. What I wanted to ask you about was some time ago, I had heard that there was a whole bunch of caves found somewhere in South America that were really unexplained, that they were perfectly round. Do you know anything about that? Or
are you talking about the caves of the cloud people?
It could very well be. I'm not sure.
Right. Interesting you would say that, because the find that's on my website on the from the Ancient American, and what a fabulous magazine. If people are interested in this, I got to tell you, that's the only magazine I know existing in the world that deals with this. But you're bringing up a fascinating point. The cave entrance to this thing that was found in the desert Southwest is perfectly round. And you can actually go to my website and click on it, and you'll see under photos, you'll actually see the cave, you'll see the actual skeletons. This thing has just been found in the last couple months.
Well, if it's actually round, it obviously was made by someone.
Well, not only that, but the point is that, you know, there are specific entrances, and again, the question is, how do you carve perfectly round holes sometimes in solid granite with, you know, basically as conventional archaeology would lead you to believe, with stone mallets and, you know, flint chopping pieces? It can't be done.
A big drill.
Yeah.
Or how about a major heat source?
You got it.
Yep.
And see, that's again the thing that's fascinating, because and the caller's bringing out a point that people have got to understand. We're not talking about isolated instances. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of monuments dealing with giants, thousands of articles, stories, digests, diaries. We're talking about bones upon bones that even still exist in some of the world's museums. We're talking about skulls so big that even the ones that have been found in America, fascinating enough, I mean, you know, they claim that some of the cranial masses, as I said earlier, 4 to 6 times that of a typical human. Can you imagine the size of the brain? Can you imagine? And by the way, these guys weren't, lacking in intelligence, nor were they lacking in strength. So again, follow me. Knowledge is exploding, George. And so by the time they get the combination of genetics, nanotechnology, and the soul catcher chip, which really exists, we've got now the days of what are called xenotransplants, where you take animal organs grown in animals, put them into people. And, you know, we've got all of the interesting legends. Even Atlantis was destroyed because of their genetic engineering. I mean, that's what history records as one of the reasons. So, you know, that which has been will be again. And it's almost like Back to the Future. And I think it's important that people understand that there is no place to find a greater body of this kind of information than that's in my book, because, again, I spent 30 years. This is no, hi, I think I'll go out and do it, This is 30 years of stuff.
Listen to this bizarre one, Steve. What happens if they're able to download your memory onto a chip, and then they put the chip into, let's say, a mouse or a cow? Wouldn't you would think that that was you, right?
Well, I can tell you this. There comes a point where you get into the human spirit, and the spirit, the breath of God versus just the soul of man. Okay. Because, again, it's fascinating to me that whenever you talk to people who have left the world of black ops, who are around the alien situation, you always hear the word incubatorium. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Very similar to the X-Files movie. And, I mean, I've talked to people that were so scared. I'm talking tough guys, George. I'm not talking, weak men, that they're absolutely traumatized. Again, you had Stan Deo on the other night. What Stan has done is a marvelous job of explaining to people how the propulsion systems on this stuff work, okay?
Right.
And so, again, if you take the kind of information that's out there, I want to absolutely provide people a basis, and I know I can speak for Stan on this too, so they understand, so they don't have to fear.
West of the Rockies in California, welcome to Coast with guest Stephen Quayle. Hi there.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
We're doing well, thank you.
I had two different subjects here, and I'll make them quick if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the first one was, in the beginning, your guest, Steve, is that your name?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a brother named Steve, so no problem there. But anyways, you had said that angels and stars meant the same thing in the Bible, and I have an interlinear, and, sometimes words are used in different ways, like angel.
And I said specifically they're interchanged in angel, the 7 stars, which are the 7 churches.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I defined it. I'm sorry, maybe you didn't hear it.
Yeah, but I don't think you can really make that angels, though, can you?
Well,
because they're churches.
Yeah, but it says the 7 angels, which are the 7...
allegorical.
Well, you could call it allegorical. I'm just saying that the bottom line is that in the Book of Revelation specifically, whether it's an allegory or even a picture, a word picture. I'm just saying that the 7 stars, which are the 7 angels, are the 7 churches.
I got you. I didn't hear that, so I was just curious. But I did a word study on it. It's like they're not used interchangeably.
No, and please, I didn't mean to make that.
No problem. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that in the Bible, where the term "sons of God" comes up, actually we have an explanation of what that all was in Deuteronomy 7:3-4. The law concerning that problem that had existed then was brought up, and that was talking about intermarriage between the sons of God, or those who follow God.
Yeah, that's not true. The sons of God are the Beni Elohim, and the bottom line is the Schofield and others. That came into the Christian, if you will, thought process about 400 A.D., and I can tell you this, if you go and look it up in your concordance, the sons of God is especially in the book of Job. First couple chapters is talking about there was a time when the sons of God came before the presence of the Lord, and Satan came also with them. It is never used of man. Jesus was called the Son of Man. The sons of God in the Old Testament are always, if you look at, and please look it up to satisfy yourself, but it's the B'nai Elohim.
In the old Greek movies, the Hercules movies and things like that, Stephen, we always saw the gods looking down on mankind, but they were always huge. They were always, the Titans. And, of course, that was movie and that was interpretation, but you know what? They might have stumbled onto something.
Well, for instance, you asked me if there were female giants. Aphrodite, okay? Let's go to Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, and Venus, okay? Aphrodite was a titaness, and it was said that her sexual appetite could never be satisfied, okay? And so when you see that in the Greek and you see in the Roman, different names for different entities, I mean, these were big people, and like you say, in all of the movies, especially the fictional movies, they always show, in essence, the giants being bigger than everybody else. Hercules was obviously, according to mythology, he was basically his father was the god and his mother was an earth woman, and you get into all of the great heroes of history being as big as they are, as powerful as they are. Obviously, to be worshipped as gods.
East of the Rockies in Ohio, you're on the air. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, this is Jerry from Ohio.
Hello, Jerry.
And I'm glad to talk to you, George, and to Steve. And I just wanted to bring up two things. I read the book Enoch, okay?
Right.
And in there, all the angels had a name. And they named the angels that came to earth to teach the earth people how to make iron, sorcery, astrology, all these angels, and they all mated with the women on earth.
Correct.
And they said there was giants, and the giants destroyed themselves by eating everybody. I mean, they couldn't get enough food.
Right, exactly. They ate themselves out of existence, and the very progeny of the giants, for instance, again, we're talking, George's question is what happened to all these guys? They were either killed or they ate each other out of existence. They basically could not, satisfy their hunger, and basically down to the last man, or I guess you'd say the last man chomping. That's just the history that is presented when you go and look at all this stuff.
Right. And up in Ohio here, I heard about the bodies they had found, the skeletons and that,
Right.
But the mound builders, they built these big serpents and that.
Right.
But the only way you can tell they're a serpent is you have to get up on a tower to look at them.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking, well, they don't know where the mound builders went, what happened to them. But I said, why could these been these giants that built these serpents? Because if they're so tall, they can look and see what they were building almost.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and one that most people, again, I want everyone to go to the chart on my website, because it's impossible for me to show you how big, 24 and 36 feet tall is. But if you're 36 feet up in the air, you're up high enough in a cherry picker, you get a bird's eye view of the size of all the stuff that you're either drawing or lasing into the soil or into the rock.
That's hard to imagine, somebody that big.
I'm tracking it down right now, but in my book, I have a picture by Dora. It's a drawing, but Richard Coombs, who has researched it, said he's got reports of giants that are 60 feet tall. Now, that's one that would be amazing. But that's what a lot of the, middle-aged guys talked about in their writings. And, quite candidly, that's huge.
First-time caller in Kentucky. You're on the air on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering about, the Romans he was talking about that were, giants, thousands of them fighting.
Right.
And, weren't, Romans a lot shorter than we are now? And wouldn't a giant be a lot, could be a lot smaller, and, word of mouth,
Made them look bigger.
Stories.
Right. Interestingly enough, the Caesars wrote such detail about the giants. For instance, the Scythians, which the Romans learned to fight them close and to basically take them at the kneecap, and the actual battles and the actual encounters where literally 100,000 were slain in a day were chronicled with such degree that basically at first the Romans were just absolutely scared to death of them. But the problem with these guys is they were pretty big, and, they were vulnerable. And I assume that, the Romans were known for their incredible fighting skills. And I would just encourage you that if this kind of stuff interests you, I have about 20 pages on the Roman battles with the giants, and it will blow your mind.
Wildcard caller in Wisconsin, your turn. You're on Coast to Coast.
Yes, Mike from La Crosse. You referenced God, the Bible, and Jesus on several occasions. Can you comment on Satan and then cut to the quick? Do we have a God and do we have a Jesus, and is the Bible real?
Well, first of all, absolutely, I believe it is, and I believe that, the point is that there is truth. I believe that there is an absolute. People say there are no such things as absolute. They've made the statement that there are none, proving there are. I believe that the bottom line is Satan is real. The whole, if you will, supernatural realm, the purpose in producing giants, and we can't get to it in this show, but I go into great detail, sir, on what the whole point of this was. When it says Noah was perfect in his generations, he was one of the only guys that hadn't had genetic tampering with all of the blood of the Nephilim running through his veins. So to answer your question, I believe absolutely, and I believe that we're in that time period now where things are going to get very, very unusual.
Some of the people on this planet have either pituitary problems, thyroid problems, which I think creates them being giants today.
Right.
The giants of the past were normal, were they not?
They were super normal from the standpoint, again, I kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's revisit it. The point is that gigantism or acromegaly, it usually results in early death, incredible weakness, and basically it's an anomaly of the pituitary, of the endocrine system, and like Andre the Giant. Remember him, the wrestler?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he died of that very medical disorder. And so the point is, we're not talking about people who are, let's say this, having a hard time getting around. Some of these giants had the dexterity of acrobats, and, the point being is that's what amazed everybody, not only being so big, so strong, and so massive, but their speed and agility is just unparalleled.
Stephen, the next time I walk around and if I see a giant, I'm going to blame you for it. You know that.
Yeah, that's fine. And again, I would just encourage people, this is fascinating to them, and I believe it is the Rosetta Stone of history. It fills in the missing blanks, and I think it'll put a lot of things into perspective for people. And again, my toll-free number for those that aren't on the Internet is 1-800-424-7870.
One more time.
1-800-424-7870.
And to those who want to just link up with Stephen Quayle's website, all you have to do is go to Art Bell's, click right onto that, and then Keith Rowland has it all set up where you can just click on to Stephen Quayle's as well. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, George.
Stephen Quayle. He's been a guest on Art's program. He's been with me before as we talk about a number of things that he has written about. And this time, giants. Giants. For Will Hilliard, Rondi Bussinger, Lisa Lyon, Delaney Conrad, Howard Morton, the webmaster, of course, Keith Rowland, Alan Corbett, and the master, Art Bell. From somewhere out there, I'm George Norrie. Have a good day, everyone.